Hey, everybody, we are live on our SpotLight series, and I'd like to introduce you to our guest, Chris Arzberger of IB Logistics. Chris is in RTA with me. He is a military veteran. Thank you for your service, Chris. And after he left the military, he became an entrepreneur because he was probably tired of listening to people tell him what to do. That's why I became an entrepreneur. So, Chris, give us a little bit of a background, brother.
Thanks, Jonathan. Great to be on. Thanks for getting me on here. I'm so humbled to be on here. And, you are right about, I was in the military, and when you make your majors boards, that's your 10-year point. I made it at my 8-year point, 2 years ahead, but that's when you sort of make the decision. Stay in for 20, go for the retirement, or do you get out? And really from what I saw at that time, the military wasn't the respect and the treating of the military, the benefits of the military going forward, the bureaucracies coming in, core values coming in. Things were changing a lot in around 1999 timeframe. And I just saw the writing on the wall that I didn't want to be involved in the military, having to go through all this woke stuff, I'll say. Even back then, it was starting to come up.
Really?
Woke. Yes, it was.
Okay.
Yes. And, for them taking away benefits, talking about, we're not going to give you the retirement benefits that you thought that you originally signed up for, prayer, God, you really can't say that anymore. It's taking things away. So it really started a lot back then, and I just decided that I could probably make more of an impact, start my own DoD consulting company and working for the Department of Defense. So I wouldn't have to deal with the bureaucracies, So that's a little bit about my background as far as why I started the company. And really another thing, Jonathan, when I was in the military, when I got to the command staff level, I had a lot of contractors working for me. And once again, it goes back to, how do you really create a business? Sometimes it's seeing the gaps in the other companies and just tweaking it, right? So I saw so many gaps in the IBMs, in the KPMGs, in the Booz Allens. I saw so many gaps that these people worked for me. And I was like, I saw the invoices. I saw what we were paying for them. I saw their responses and how they were supporting me. And I saw a lot of responses from them that I didn't think it was worthwhile when we're paying all this money. And I said, hey, could you do this? Oh, it's not in my contract. It's not in the scope. I can't do that. Oh, but if you mod the contract and give me an extra couple $100,000, we can do that. I'm like, what? You gotta be kidding me. So that right there, I saw an opportunity. And when I started the supply chain and consulting company that I have now, one of the core values was we are not going to ever utter the words, we can't do that because we have to take a mod. We have to change the scope or we need more money. I told everybody that works for me, I said, we are going to take on all the work that the customer wants us to take, because inevitably, if you do a good job, you're going to uncover new work and new ways of thinking or combining data. And that's what we do. We do big data warehouses, multiple interfaces with like 50 legacy systems. So creating stovepipe stuff, putting it together, not stovepipe, so you can make actual information about it. And sure enough, when you do that, you're going to uncover new areas of growth. And I told my guys, I'm like, we are never uttering the words, no, give us more money. We're just going to take that work on, communicate with the customer. We're going to do this work at a hide. And when we recompete on the contract, that new work will be in that contract and will grow every single time we have to recompete the contract.
Nice.
So,
and so that's IB Logistics in a nutshell, how you formed it, right? You saw gaps.
Yeah.
Like, hey,
I saw gaps.
I was in
the military. I saw gaps when I was in the military, right? Yeah. It just so happened I was at the right spot. Like Ed always says, things happen for you, not to you, right? I'm at the right spot, the right time, doing the work, going, seeing the gaps, how the other contractors are treating the DoD. I'm like, okay, I want to turn that upside down. Really, I want to flip that upside down. And I saw the outrageous rates they're getting, because they have lots of bureaucracy tied to their whole infrastructure, So I'm like, all right, we're going to run a small, very nimble company. And one of the things in my company is we have no middle managers. Every single person that works for us is a worker, and we incentivize them to integrate with the customer, right? So when we have our meetings with the customer, the functionals, the decision makers, the colonels, the generals, the other like SESs and stuff like that. Our guys, they brief those. I don't brief those. I'm in the meeting, but I let my guys go to the forefront and talk to them because they've been with those guys every single day, working on new requirements, prioritizing requirements, seeing where we're going to go. So we don't have any middle managers, none of that. We miss. There's no managers, right? So when we do a job, there's going to be no labor category of a program manager. Everybody's doing work,
Yeah, that's smart.
So yeah, I saw that was like an opportunity, and I tell people, I'm like, some of the best ideas when you look over time is just seeing something and just tweaking it a little bit different or turning it upside down if you think it's not right,
Yeah.
So that has been very, very key for me. And I started that company right when I got out. And then in 2001, I said, for me to really grow, I need to bring a partner on. So I brought on another military guy who I've been in military with, and he got out at the same time as me, and he worked for Chrysler, and he started doing work for IB Logistics for free, and just showing me what capabilities he could give, and he could bring in another area of expertise that I didn't really have. So he came on board in 2001, and we've been together since that time, and we've both been very great with accountability, and him developing his area of expertise, me developing my area of expertise, but really niching into the supply chain of enabling parts movement in the DoD supply chain.
Got it. And what would you say your strength is and weakness, and how does it compare to your partners? Because that's a big mistake I've made several times. We talk about big mistakes.
Yeah, that's a good point, because my strength is I'm very optimistic and very I'm like, hey, let's go do this and let's do this and very aggressive. And he is not. He's very slow. Hey, but Chris, let's think about this. But Chris, let's think about this. So we offset each other a lot. And there's been many times I believe that if I would have led, I would have hit landmines. But because of him sitting there in my ear, Chris, let's take a little break. Hey, let's not do this. Hey, have we thought about this? He's always got a much bigger picture, I would say, of what could happen. Whereas I'm like, see the end prize, and I'm like, charge, go ahead, and I'm just galloping, and so he brings that good balance to me, on that, and he's really with that perspective that really helps us. And then the other side is he's really, really good with numbers, the numbers side, pricing contracts and things like that. But we really complement each other is that we both have a lot of same core values. So we're like, one of the best things that I like about him is that when we want to give bonuses and stuff, we've never, ever not agreed on giving bonuses and giving back to our employees and really making them feel well valued in our company, as far as giving performance bonuses, raises, all that kind of stuff. I really like that. We never argued, not a one time on any of that stuff.
That's awesome. And it's not easy to work necessarily in a partnership. Right.
No,
One,
it's not.
Values have to align. Two, hopefully you guys both bring something different to the table. And three, it's always more expensive than debt. Like if you do it for cash. I try to tell people that all the time. No one ever wants to listen. Especially
and it's so funny because his background is really in the financial area of DoD, and my background is more in the supply chain, information technology, total asset visibility, tracking of parts. So we're developing in the DoD and pulling information out for that, and he's more on the financial side, paying bills, things like that. So we really have he's able to develop his independently. I'm able to develop mine independently,
Yeah.
And I'll tell you a story. About partnerships, which I think I told you before when we first talked. At the same time as when I got out of the Air Force, I opened a gym in Pittsburgh International Airport called Airport Fitness. I teamed with 3 other partners. One of the partners I knew for about maybe 2 years in the Air Force, and he was the main guy that sort of recruited me. So he was a guy, he had connections with New Balance. He was a runner. He was sponsored by Air Force to run and stuff like that. Very high up in the running world, almost like the Olympic level, right? So he had this idea, his brainchild. He's like, Chris, I see you as a man that can do the operations, run the gyms, all that kind of stuff. Because at that time, I was bodybuilding for the Air Force. I was actually running classes at their gyms and stuff like that. But then I didn't know the guy who was responsible for the money, and I didn't know the guy who was responsible for all the build outs. And so when we started doing this, and we actually got our first airport approved in Pittsburgh International Airport, when the club got up and running, all those three other guys who had their roles, my main partner, Mike, his role was to make sure he secures the other locations, right? And do the marketing and bring money to build the other ones. And then all that. So we had all this time phase milestones. But when we opened that first one, everybody wanted to be at the club. Everybody wanted to be at the club, and everybody didn't want to do their jobs that we agreed upon. And then there was core values that were really messing up, like people out partying and doing not good actions as far as being loyal to us and loyal to their families. You know, so I saw that, and after 2 years, I was just like done. But that's because of my lack of slow learning people about their alignment, right? Aligning with me in core values, and I didn't give it time. So that really, I mean, I came out of there a lot of debt, you know. So, but I chose that path and just get out, because I just want to get out. I said, listen, I don't want anything. I'll just leave with my debt, and that'll be it.
Yeah, I've done that. And sometimes it's better to just remove yourself, take the loss, and move on.
Yes, 100%.
Couple things that I have a few questions. So, what's been one of the biggest challenges you've had in business, and how did you overcome it or deal with it besides the partnership?
Yeah. So one of the biggest things in our business, when you're in the consulting business, in working with federal government, there are a lot of incentive programs for minority-owned companies, whether it be minority-owned or even woman-owned. And there's been business coaches that have came to both Jeff and I over the years since 2001 and said, you guys need to restructure your company as a woman-owned. You need to give it to your wives. You know, and look at this. I'm divorced, right? He's divorced. If we would have given it to our wives, that would have been a big mess. Yeah. Or you need to go find someone else, find some minority person to run your company. And Jeff and I have always looked back and said, you know, that is like not who we are, and it will be a shell company. And those companies actually have set that time up. They've been audited, and a lot of them have been closed down and disbarred from doing government work. So just resisting the temptation of growing a company to like, could these minority companies get set asides and they grow from like nothing to like 25 million, 50, I mean, fast, like 5 years, you know? So the temptation to do that is so big. And so many people are like, you got to do this. And like, we hire different business development guys, and that's what they tell us. I'm like, no, we're not doing that. We're going to go on our own merit, our own ability to do work. Yeah, we're two white guys. Yeah, we get no special incentives. You know, there are veteran owned, but there's no quotas for veteran owned. One, like there's quotas for the other. You have to do like the government has to contract like 8, 10, 20%, whatever, to those minority owned. There's no quotas for us. You know, there's no direct awards. So that was like the biggest challenge as far as just staying true to your core values and staying true to who you are. And I believe, once again, if we would have did the other path, we would have been shut down, because they would have came and investigated us. And it would have been, no matter who we hired, whether it be our wives running it, they were not really running the business. The same with the minority-owned person, not running the business. They're not the customer interface, which we are. We're on site with the customers all the time doing that. Yeah. So that's like a big temptation that is in that DoD space, because the growth is just so big. And what's amazing to me is that I believe God is orchestrating everything. And at that time, you know, God's like, okay, there's a temptation there, you know, can you resist that? But now where we're at, you know, both him and I are 5 to 10 years away from stepping away from this. And we have 2 young men in their 30s, maybe 35, maybe 40, that have been working for us for about 15 years. And we are going to transition our company to them. And they are minority owned. So in this transition, hopefully in the next year or two, we're going to help them transition. And we are then going to scale this company. but they are actually going to be running the company because it is the right time now for us to lead. And we've had these guys working for us for so long that we know who they are. We're comfortable in that, and they can actually run the company. You know, it's not like it was before. So I see how cool it was, how like you resist this temptation and you're still going to get this massive payout at the end if you do the right thing. It goes back to like Andy always says, for 10 years, he grinded, did the right thing, stick your core values, and this amazing thing happens. And I tell people, I said, if you can just do this tiny amount of work, God's going to take it and just make it so big sometime down the road, but you don't know. You don't know when that's going to happen. But you just have to have faith that you just doing that little bit of work each day is going to, and that means all facets of your life, whether it be your physical, your mental, your business, your family, just do that little bit of work that you are in control of, you know? And you stick to your core values as you're in control of that. You know what your core values are. You know, if you want to be truthful and honest and open and all the time and have transparency in your business, you got to stick to that path. And now God's like, okay, we're going to help you do this. And now like our exit strategy, you know, getting out of a $50 million company will be crazy, you know?
Yeah. So you've been running this for a while. Talk to us. I don't think a lot of people understand a lot of business to business aspects or business to government like you are plugged in.
Yeah.
And I do think it's important to talk about cash flow cycles. Okay. Because it's not easy, right? Your net.
Right.
Do you mind talking about this live?
Yeah, we can talk that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Because I think it'll help a lot of people. Because everybody wants to get into the guaranteed money working with the government, municipalities, businesses, but they don't understand. So walk us through how you bill and then the delay that you experience.
Right. Well, first, how about we walk back that the business cycle in government is years out, right? Yep. I'm tracking stuff for years. I'm building relationships for years. You know, it goes back to a lot of the RTA principles about networking. Yeah. You are identifying people and you're working with them for years to bid on a contract, right? So it may be a 2-year, 3-year process. And then maybe you're building that bid package to go to the government. So a lot of times based on where we're at, a lot of our bids are time and labor up front, labor and material, you know, time and material type contracts. But then we always try to learn the processes so we can build a fixed price contract, because the government loves fixed price, loves it. And if you can see where you can take advantage of improvements, process improvements, you can make a lot of margin on those fixed price contracts going forward, you know? So we build, usually at the beginning, we'll do time and material contracts just to get our feet wet and figure it out.
Please explain that.
Excuse me?
Please explain time and material for the audience.
Right.
So I know what it is.
Yeah, so time and material is just basically we are putting a quote out there that it will take 40 hours to do this, and we are going to have this type of level of expertise doing this job, a senior tech guy doing this job, and we are going to do and to create this deliverable down the road 6 months and things like that. And then the government signs off to that. But in all reality, the government really loves firm fixed price because it takes all the risk off of them, right? But for me as a contractor, I know when I'm going to these new things and dealing with the government, you can't do firm fixed price up because there's so many bureaucratic things that's going on that are just going to really mess up your firm fixed price. So until you're in there for like a year or a little bit, maybe a little bit longer to figure out what the processes are, then you can go firm fixed price. So majority of all our contracts now are all firm fixed price. And we have been able to really, as the years go on, even trim it better, get more margin, because we keep on introducing more process improvements, more, better ways of doing things, So that really helps. And then once you get the contract and the contract, the contracting officer signs on it, they accept your bid and stuff like that. And you have to go through competition because once again, we're not getting a direct award. We're not like the small companies who can basically go in. So like a minority company can go in, here's a proposal. They can go to the contracting officer and say, here's a direct award. And that's it. There's no competition. We've never had that. Right. Yeah. So we go in and we have to compete against everybody else. Once you win that, then you get paid. The time of pay is really different. Usually when you first win a contract, you might have to wait 90 to maybe 120 days before you even get your first payment because of just all the wickets it has to go through. And people might not be used to the process of what they have to do to get your invoice paid. So there's a lot of bureaucracy in the government. Now, one of our clients we've had since 1999. We've had the Air Force Material Command, the same group of people. Of course, they transition in and out, but that same organization, we've had them as our customer. Those are our best customers because they've learned so much through the process that we get paid within 30 days. Most everybody else, we probably more about maybe 45, 60-day type turnaround. So therefore, you need to have definitely the cash flow. You need to have some line of credit. We have line of credits to cover all that for our payroll and stuff like that to make sure. And there's been times where we have been having to use exclusively that line of credit. And like, so right now, like if we were to win a contract of 10 people, right? Me and Jeff have secured lines of credit to cover that labor for 90 days, because you're not going to get paid when you win a new contract for like 90 days, maybe 120 days. So you need to have that money. Either, at the beginning we did line of credit. Now we have enough in IB with this. We keep enough reserve to cover that versus using the line of credit.
Yeah.
So.
And think about it like this too. And I really enjoy this conversation because a lot of people don't understand this, right? And you being in this field for this long, no one knows this better than you, right? So let's just say
we almost got bankrupt, dude, because of this. When we were younger, we almost got bankrupt because of this.
That's my point I'm making here, is most people get sideways and lose because of this, and there's no reason to do that. So here's my question here. Let's say, and I do not disclose this, obviously, okay? Your margins, let's say they're 30%, okay? I know that. I trust me when I tell you I know, okay?
Yeah.
Just based on experience.
Right, yeah.
Let's say your average job is $100,000.
Yeah.
Okay. Currently, you're doing 3 jobs a month.
Yep.
Well, guess what? That means you are laying out $210,000.
Yep.
Just month one. Let's just say it's not the first time you did work with them. You're laying out $210,000 to hopefully get back, if everyone pays on time, $300,000 in 30 days. You take on one more person. What do you have to lay out the next month? $280, right?
Yep. Right.
And it snowballs. So what happens is, if you are growing quickly, there's a good chance you will be bankrupt.
Yeah.
Here's the other problem that everybody does. And this is a great learning experience for anybody in the audience. If you take a loan, an SBA loan, it'll probably work. Here's why, because you have 10 years to pay it back. If you take a line of credit, you're walking a tightrope. Why? Because lines of credit are usually anywhere from 6 months to 36 months. They're really not as long as an SBA loan. So what happens is you're floating that cash and you still have the same mathematical issue that you have to lay out $70,000 each job to get that 70 back and then 30,000 in profit. But what you're doing is you're just adding a payment. The only way to truly grow and scale is to factor, meaning speed up your receivables so that problem is no longer there and you can afford the margin.
Yes. Yeah.
Everybody, because every single person I've spoken with that's B2B or business to government, always the only thing they ask for, line of credit. Tell them that's not what's going to do it. Once you set this up, you're golden.
And in reality, Jonathan, that's, we did it wrong too. We asked for a line of credit. Luckily, we just got lucky.
Probably a mathematical magician.
I think, yeah. But our clients were really helpful for us. They really cared about trying to learn the process for us. Like you said, the speed, like our Material Command, our Air Force main contract, they pay within 30 days, like 25 days, and that never used to be like that, but it's so cool that they do that now. And in our other contracts too, they pay pretty quick now, but it wasn't, like I said, there were times where we were facing no money, and we're like, oh my God, where did all this go? We have so much money, it's all like receivables. We're like, So and
let's not even get into accounting, right?
Yeah,
accounting.
One of the cool things I was going to say, as you were talking about scaling, and you scale fast, you put yourself in a huge jeopardy when you don't have that cash flow, and that's one of the things that we realized, that problem about scaling fast and making sure like what size contracts we could bring on to actually handle the money side.
Yeah.
But we also realized that inherent in our business, there were many contractors that scaled fast and just went default on contracts because they couldn't actually execute on the contract. Yep. So that was another thing that we really wanted to make sure is that when we scaled, when we won new contracts, that we didn't want to win this contract and this contract and this and just like couldn't, the money, would kill us, but then who can we actually execute on all those contracts like we have on these other contracts, because our name is so good. Our name is getting the name recognition, the marketing for us to get new business. And if we mess up on these other ones, it's going to just detriment our whole company. So that has been something that we've been very cognizant of, so much to the point where, when we first started out, me and my partner were the ones that went on to new contracts and made sure we knew what we were doing before we even hired anybody. Sometimes we had to, I remember the one contract we won, we're in Ohio. We won one in the Pentagon, and we had to travel every other week to the Pentagon. And within a month, Jonathan, I was pissed. I was like, I can't do this for a year. But we had committed to a year that we were going to travel every other week to the Pentagon, and that was part of the deal with the Marine Corps there. So we did it for a year, and then we were able to backfill and hire and learn process and all that stuff, but that's like something that was a good decision. It may have sucked traveling there, but it was a good decision to do that.
Absolutely. Man, this has been great. What are some of the things that you would tell somebody that is just starting in and working with the government or B2B, like somebody that is in this field, so to speak? What are some of the keys for them having longevity and being able to build their company wisely? Like going back, like if you go back in time, what would you tell yourself when you started?
Definitely develop your core values and stick to them, because there's going to be a lot of temptation. A lot of things are going to go on. A lot of bad actions are going to go on, even if you can't control them. We have been accused of giving kickbacks to customers. So we've gone through audits, inspections from the IG and stuff like that. So those are just going to come. It's just the nature of the game. People are jealous for different reasons. And we've been accused of lots of different things. And we've had to spend a lot of money to defend ourselves. And that's just the nature of I think that's probably the nature of the beast anywhere. But in government, it happens a lot. And then when you win contracts, you get people protesting. The people who you just kicked their butt in the competition, they're going to protest, and that's going to then cost you money. So you need to, once again, going back to your thing of money, you need to have money, and maybe like you've mentioned, SBA loans is a good thing to have money available to do all these things, because it's things outside your control that you're going to still have to fight, so that you actually can win the contract, because you're fighting this protest, and because you can fight this IG inspection because someone's accusing you of giving government kickbacks and things like that. They just can't believe that. Wow, can that company be really that good and be winning all this work? And there's a lot of jealousy in that. So that was like one thing. Sticking to core values helped us through all those. Sticking to those core values of open, honesty, transparency, and not succumbing to all the stuff that other coaches would tell us to do. Some of the things that Andy says, the beauty's in the inefficiencies, and our beauty is in our inefficiency of really not wanting to run a company that was run by people who really weren't running the company, like a shell company, So I think that's a key component, is to make sure you have core values and operate by those core values, and know that there's going to be a lot of temptation coming to do the wrong thing. But if you look at what Andy, go through those 10 hard years, and there's going to be something amazing at the end coming on. If you stick to core values, or inefficiencies, what you believe. Hold on one second here. Sorry about that. So that would be one thing. Definitely prepare yourself for. And then as far as have a vision for where you want to be 10, 20 years from now, right? So right now where I'm at in both me and my partner, we literally spend 2 to 4 hours in our business. That's it. That's all we do. So that allows us to do these other things, do charity work, do other companies, other things that we're very interested in, like my daughter rides horses. I can spend a lot of time at horse shows with her, with his kids do dance competitions. So they're traveling to Ireland and stuff like that. But it's because we have established that culture, those standing operating procedures for our employees to just run the show. They, like I said, they integrate with the customers and things just keep going, and so I would think if you really want to develop a company where you can exit sometime, you have to create that culture and those standing operating procedures so that anybody can run that company. And that took us a long time to do because we were at one time it was Chris Arzberger and Jeff. IB Logistics, you're Chris and Jeff, and we want to hire Chris and Jeff. And we had to fight that for the first probably 10 years.
Yeah.
Fight that stigma, that okay, how can it not be Chris and Jeff? How can it be IB Logistics that you're hiring?
Yeah. We've all been there. Well, Chris, I can't thank you enough, brother. This has been awesome. We even went over, which I thought we were going to do. So, Chris, if somebody wanted to work with you, if someone had questions, where's the best place they can reach you?
So, I have IG, right? It's killing it 24/7. You just put Chris Arzberger and you'll find me there. You reach out on Facebook. You can even go to iblogistics.com and we have an info there. You can send me an email there. So
awesome. Well, hey man, thank you so much.
Open all that. Yeah. Jonathan, I really appreciate your questions. I really appreciate you coming up with real good questions as we talked. That was really good. I love getting challenged to answer things and go back and seeing what the struggles I have,
Well, it's good. And here's why we do this. We do this to spotlight your business, but we also do this to help other people understand some of the challenges that entrepreneurs run through and they might be experiencing themselves. So that's why it's so important that we do these with so many different types of businesses, because each business, every business operates the same, but there's so many differences within them that it's important to connect all the dots for people, right?
Yes.
Without small business, we don't have our country. That's what I give a shit about.
Yep.
All right. So guys, look Chris up. Great entrepreneur, better person, part of Arte. Chris, thank you so much for coming on. And guys, make sure you read